All I ever wanted to do was work because I had no problem working with my hands to make money. What is going on? This is Jason Julius. I am your host of the Julius Files. And today we are producing our next episode, but this episode this is what I was talking about where it comes to the Q&A. We're going to call this the Q and JP, the question and the Julius perspective, because this podcast is supposed to be about what it takes to be successful in life and entrepreneurship. And I want to make sure that inside these podcasts, I'm able to put my own perspective out there. So I told everybody that I had co-hosts that would be rotating out. And since I just happened to have all of them here, we're going to go around the table and I'm going to let each one of them actually ask me one question. So today I've got 4 of them in here. So this is 4 questions that are going to come to me. And I guess that we'll talk about that and whatever their question is, which they already made it very clear that all bets had to be off, that they needed to be able to ask me any question that they wanted to ask me, which scares me a little bit because I would like at some point to get a little more serious about questions based on entrepreneurship and my journey and my perspective on living a higher quality physical and mental life. But we're gonna go with this first round. It's open, so I got a feeling that these questions are gonna be out of let's just say out of the ordinary. So okay, let's see here. Who would like to ask me the first question to get the Julius perspective? And there was
how bad do you want this to go? How fast?
Oh my God! I mean, I feel like we, like I said, Matt's that one that here comes the master blaster all in one foul swoop. So let's just get this out of the way. Let's get the most painful. You know what? I shouldn't say that. That's honestly, I shouldn't say that. I mean, yeah, because beyond him would be 3 women that would be like, oh yeah, I can make it worse. So any which way, yeah, let's start with Matt and let's see where this goes.
I would like to know how, with all your expertise, you would handle a situation where an office average temperature in the winter is between 40 and 50 degrees. How would you handle that? Okay, so a little bit of context here.
I convert banks into coffee junkies and pizza junkies operations. And so generally it works well for me because I convert office space into kitchen space and I convert teller space into the coffee junkies serving the drinks and obviously through the drive-through window. So when we opened up this location that Matt is here to quickly bust my balls about, the office became the unused space, the space that we didn't have a use for.
It was not an office.
But no, it wasn't an office. Honestly, this would be like, so in my main location, what did I do with the vault? Well, I converted the vault into the cooler. It's like the safest produce in town. So when I opened up the Indianapolis location, I was like, great, now show me the vault. And they were like, great. And we walked back there and I'm like, yeah, you're not turning that into a walk-in cooler. Because they're little, of course, they're oversized safe that set next to the ATM machine, which is like a little insert that plugs in from the outside of the wall. And then, what would you say? Be honest. Don't exaggerate, Matt Bradshaw. You exaggerate. But we're going to say that there's probably
it's like an 8 by 12.
Yeah, okay, we'll go 8 by 12. That's fair. No, it is. No, he's not exaggerating. That's actually right about the space. The point is,
it was 4 foot from the ATM.
I built a wall so that we could put a door, so that we could have a legitimate office. It's a small office. It was an office when it was just Matt in there. When it became Matt and Trish, then it became a really small space. But one side is automatically, it's drafty. So let's be
I think
clear.
He just called me fat. Wait,
No.
did he just call us fat?
No, I said two of you in the 8x12 space then became a small space to work out of.
I understand this is a podcast, but we are the two largest people. He just called us fat.
No, yet I employ you. So I'm not discriminating. And let's be clear. Look, Matt's a big guy. I mean, but I leave it at a big guy. That won't stop Matt from cracking fat friendly jokes. It's not me. Let's be clear about this. I didn't do this. I didn't start this, but my brain being what it is, I'm willing to participate in it just a little bit. So getting back to the question itself. So I want to be clear. One, there is a heater in this space. And two, it is not cold in this space in the winter is what everybody thinks winter is 3 months. It is when it drops below freezing for those really cold blasts that it really does get pretty damn cold in that office. But we're talking about, we're Indiana. So that is 2 to 3 weeks out of a 52-week year that it is above average cold.
2 to 3 weeks.
Yes. But the thing is, that's not the point. He wants me to spend $30,000 to solve a 2 to 3 week a year problem.
What figure did you just throw out?
I would rather add another heater. That's another $15 heater.
The 30,000? Are we building the whole nother office? I mean,
hey,
I like that.
Don't even start because that's the whole point. And let's go all the list of things that I have satisfied that was on your request list. And it doesn't matter because there's when they no. And here's the thing, and everyone, you guys need to hear this. So if you go into business, you're going to find out that you're going to want to take care of people. But I promise you, when you show that you are actually willing to take care of people, holy shit, do not give them a pen and paper because the list will continue to grow longer, faster than what you're capable of satisfying each piece. So like last year, I went on this, I'm going to try and wipe out this list. You know, I wiped out probably 10 lists because every time I wiped out a list, that was the one thing they were willing to do off the clock is go home and make another freaking list that I had to satisfy. And every time I would satisfy the list, another list would present itself. So be warned when you go out of your way to try and take care of your people and satisfy their requests. They will not be short on requests in general. But yes, I will give you that a couple weeks a year, it is above average cold, and I am willing to spend the money to bring in yet another heater for those couple weeks that it does need to be turned on to make sure. What's this?
That wasn't.
No. You were going to pipe in. Go ahead, Rebecca. What was that?
We needed a salamander.
Oh, no, but then he would be bitching about the fumes from the salamander. It really does need to be another electric heater because as I showed them, if you use the full features of the heater, meaning you have 1 and 2 being the stronger voltage, and you use that little thing called a thermostat, you can set it and leave it, and the office will stay warm. So when you walk into it, you feel warmth. And when you see those days that it's going to drop below 30, all right, no problem. I will go buy a second heater for those it's not a couple weeks straight throughout the year. It's those couple days of really cold blasts.
You would think this man has not lived in Indiana his whole life.
I have lived in Indiana, but let me tell you, you did not go through the 78 blizzard where Indiana actually got a real amount of snow. And because of climate change, it was pretty cold then. But the point is, climate has changed, and Indiana's winters are nothing like they were when I was a kid.
No, they're colder.
I don't know if they are colder because I do remember some like -30, -40, -50 shit when I was a kid. But again, they were cold blasts. They only lasted 3, 4, 5 days. What?
We used to have snow.
Yeah.
We don't have snow anymore.
No, I get that.
We have ice.
I mean, but what you would be saying right there is that we have a lot more dancing in the 32 to 35 range, and rain comes down, and because it's right up on freezing, it turns to ice. Okay. So I have
So I
now.
did hear
no,
that
no, no,
we're
no,
getting
no,
a
no, no,
heater.
no. You got your question. I have now cleared your question. It is time to move on to one of the ladies.
I feel like I got cut off there.
No, you didn't get cut off. You skipped the women. It's the ladies first, and you jumped right in with the first question.
Jumped right in?
You did? You did. I said, who has the first question? And you were right there ready to go with your question. Now it's time to give the ladies a turn. So out of the three ladies at this table, who would like to give me their next question?
So what is the best advice that you've ever received?
Best advice that I have ever received.
That's what you went with?
Man.
I wasn't going to turn this
No,
into
look, see,
back.
that's Trisha's being nice. She's not trying to actually
You let me down off this
attack
one.
me.
I have to ride home with you guys.
And I watched her. They
I did bring him up here.
They communicated back and forth through text message, trying to really get me actually set up on this. So, man, the best advice that I have ever received. God, that is so. Because I mean, I'm not going to deny, I've sought out a lot of information. So, I mean, because the context of that, what's the best advice I've ever received? Well, I mean, I have read hundreds and hundreds of books, so it's really hard for me to actually narrow in like that. And then I have actually searched out mentorship. So again, they have all had their own advice to impart. I really, you know what? I'll give you this. Probably the best advice that I ever received, as far as now being 17 years into my entrepreneurial journey, there was an individual that I remember working with at Chrysler. The dude's name was Aaron Rivers. And we were standing outside of HR. I was a union rep at the time. And as I remember, he was doing a side gig in prosthetic limbs. And I mean, this dude was like a supervisor, like highly educated. As far as the road of Chrysler, he had a lot to, and he said, let me tell you something. The best place, the best thing to invest in is yourself. Bet on yourself. And I'll be honest. I mean, I look at some people, and I've talked about that. I don't like judging people, but I mean, you size people up, and in reality, it comes down to that's judging people. And I look at some people out there, and I'm like, come on, let's be honest. I look at some people, and I'm like, I'm not going to tell you that you should bet on yourself. You should probably just bet on somebody else. But I mean, that's just sizing people up. But in general, if you have a healthy perspective, if you have finally realized that you don't know half of what you think you know, and you can learn something new every day, if you understand that everything in life, success in business and in life, almost solely revolve around your mindset, and you're willing to seek out the information to understand your mind itself, and understand that there is a huge difference between your mind controlling you and you controlling your mind, I can honestly say that you should bet on yourself, because you are more, if you believe in yourself, if you trust yourself and your own abilities, you are more of a sure bet than betting on anyone or anything else, as long as you're going to actually hold yourself accountable, as long as you're not one of those people that have to go out and find other people to motivate you. If you have that internal drive that motivation is not your issue, that you go out looking for other people to seek to gain knowledge and develop relationships. If I've talked to some people that they are entrepreneurs at higher levels than me, and they offer courses, training, and they do talk about those consummate people that they go to every event that's out there because they're looking to other people to motivate them. And I'll be the first to say, I think if you have to look to other people to be your biggest level of motivation, well, maybe you don't want to bet on yourself. You're probably not right for entrepreneurship, because in the process that you go through as an entrepreneur, there is a certain amount of no man's land that you exist in, which means there's not going to be nobody else to motivate you. Your own personal motivation is going to dictate whether you actually see it through, because there is a lot of pain involved, and there is a lot of suffering and sacrifice involved, but there is a lot of mistakes made and lessons learned and wisdom gained an experience that you develop by being willing to bet on yourself, invest in yourself, and what's that? Blaze your own trail, make your own path. And honestly, when I started Coffee Junkies, I knew that I was going to develop Coffee Junkies into a national brand. And in my lowest of lows, and when I say lowest of lows, I'm talking about those moments that I was in the corner, either ready to drink myself into oblivion or cry myself to sleep. It was Rebecca coming down and being like, take your moment, because tomorrow it's going to be time to get up, because failure is not an option. And I've always known that because I always knew what I was working towards. It was the realization of, much like a diamond, you look like shit as you're going through the pressure, and you feel like shit as you're going through the pressure. But the beautiful nuggets, the wisdom and experience, the success that's on the other side is forged out of that pressure. And it's the mindset of understanding that you should be grateful for all of it, because all of it is what makes you who you are. And I've long said, I mean, I'm not necessarily everybody's cup of tea. I'm not the most likable person for everybody, but I know that I'm a good person. I know that I'm trustworthy. I know that I try and function in high character. And I know that generally people will look at me and say, dude's not going to bullshit you. You know where you stand with him. And there's a certain level of respect that comes with that. And I can't necessarily say that the individual I am today was the individual I was in my 20s. But I know somewhere in my 20s, I started really seeking out that level of information and education. And it has been a growing process. And you saying that actually brings back so many memories, because I can close my eyes. I know where I was standing, what part of the building at Chrysler. And I remember when Aaron told me, your best bet is to bet on yourself, invest in yourself. All right, so we have two more questions still yet to come. Who wants to come with their question? Oh, in silence.
I don't really have a great question for you. I mean, I don't know. I was going to ask something boring like, what's your favorite book? But that's boring. And I thought, well...
I mean, I do have a favorite 5 books, but...
Yeah, but I forget what her question was because you took that so long. So,
hey, long-winded, and that's why I thought, hey, you know what? I've been, a lot of people have told me that I have a radio voice, and I was like, you know what? Maybe it's time to actually test that out, because long-winded, yeah, I'm not going to deny I'm a little long-winded, and
You definitely got the face for radio.
I have the face for radio. I like that. I like that. Just like, what was it? Some secrets are not yours to. How was that goes? What was it that it said? You said it wasn't my secret to. I can't remember how that whole thing went, because Jeremy was messing with him.
It wasn't my secret to keep, and then he said, "Yeah, but it wasn't your secret to tell either."
There you go. Exactly. Remember that when somebody tells you a secret, it's not your secret to tell, just because you think it's not your secret to keep.
so I guess what possessed you to buy a 68 Chrysler 300?
Man, it was totally irrational, spur of the moment. Okay, so I mean, a little bit of background. When I left Chrysler in 2007, I worked there for almost 14 years, and I mean, I'm a consummate. I mean, I'm a diehard car guy. I mean, like there's many. No, there's not many. Let me take that back. Like. Art. Well, what is art? Well, I mean, like a woman is beautiful. That is art. A car is beautiful. That is art. And then you've got, entrepreneurship. I think that's one of the finest arts out there. But the reality is, I am a car guy. I think cars are beautiful. I think that they are fun to drive. And working for Chrysler, I've long said, I mean, I want to drive a nice car. I've driven. What's that? That's not. That was totally based around the art thing. Okay, the arts. So the point is, when I left Chrysler, I bought their 300M, and at that age, I had heard the lingerings that that the 300 name is a resurrection from an old name. I didn't know, because if you actually go back into the history of it, they were 300 Newports. And I was familiar with the Newport brand. I didn't make the connection. But the point is, the resurgence of the 300 was the 300M. And I had driven all kinds of stuff when I worked at Chrysler, but on my way out the door, I bought a 300M. It was a 33, lease turn in with 36,000 miles on it. Little did I know that it would be the last car that I would buy for many, many, many years, as I drove that car to over 250,000 miles in my entrepreneurial journey back and forth to the different operations and whatnot. I loved the car so much that when I ran it into the ground, I went out and I bought another one. And when I ran that one into the ground, I went out and bought another one. And when I ran that one into the ground, that's when the 300Cs came out. And that's when I just went gaga over like that. I still remember Cat Williams playing the joke, and he was like, somebody going, the 300s, they look like a Bentley. And he was like, no, they look like a 300. And the 300s was like the best thing that came out of the Germans buying Chrysler was that Chrysler 300. It was one of the most beautiful vehicles I had ever seen. So I've owned the 300Ms. Then I started owning the 300Cs. Then I drove a couple of the 300Ss. The most favorite, which I've now owned it 3 times, the 2014 Chrysler 300C John Varvatos edition. And I've owned it 3 times because I leased it the first time, and it was a 1-year lease. And they told me when they gave it to me as a 1-year lease, do not ask. You are not allowed to buy this car at the end. This is a special deal. You get to drive it for 1 year. You got to give it back. Don't bother asking. At the end of the year, I was in love with this vehicle. They were like, we told you, don't even ask. So I had to give it up. 2 years later, I was in a little bit healthier of a position, and I was like, I want that car back. So I found that car in Kentucky. It was in Kentucky. Yeah, we drove down to Louisville, and I paid cash for it. And 6 months later, we got into a cash crunch. And like many times in your entrepreneurial journey, you start struggling with cash flow. You look for assets that you've got that you can convert to cash. I was pissed because that time I literally had to give up that car for a second time. I had to sell it because I needed the money. And yes, it was. It was a very bad day. And then again, here we are. This is 2000, technically now 22. But in very beginning of 2000, it was somewhere around middle of 2020.
It was a week before Corona kicked off.
Yeah, because the thing is I lease vehicles, and I can never keep the miles in check. So I got sick of paying for all the miles. So I thought, well, if I buy another car, then I can split the miles and still stay in this lease program, and then put the miles on another car. And I thought, I don't care that the thing is now 6 years old. I loved this in particular 300. So I found another one. This time we drove all the way damn near to Canada to find the year, the model, the rims, the everything. And I mean, you know what? There is a whole nother story as to how this in particular vehicle went. We'll save that one for another day. The point is, I've owned this 300 now. This in particular 2014 John Varvatos, this is my 3rd one of an identical vehicle. But
this is the longest you've had one.
Yes, and honestly, it's when it all comes down to it. But you know how you get, and I say get bored, you always find your way to Facebook Marketplace. And just as you're about ready to get off Facebook, I'll see what's on Facebook Marketplace. And I'll be damned if as I'm scrolling, a 1968 Chrysler 300 with an original 40,000 miles pops up for $6,500. Now, I want to say, prefacing before we get to the purchase, I don't haggle. I'm not I look for win-win situations, and it's like, if the price is right and I'm interested, I buy it. I don't try the price was $6,500. So I'm not going to go for 64 or 63 or he priced it right. It caught my eye. I knew as long as this thing drove and was in halfway decent condition, because I love Chrysler 300s, because I love Chrysler in general, I'm buying this vehicle. As we get there, it did ran. It ran like shit, but it ran, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to put some money into this thing because I want to bring this back to life. As we were doing all of that, and I start counting out the $6,500, Matt is sitting over here just stewing, because he was ready to be put into play because Matt loves to haggle. He will
Ladies
haggle.
and gentlemen, on the windshield of the 68 Chrysler 300 was 6,500, and then the three letters that means we're up to negotiate. OBO means or best offer. That means you do not pay $6,500. He picked a random number. He stuck it on the windshield. Then he was like, I'm going to put OBO on there because we want to haggle today.
And I'm not going to deny, he's probably right. I mean, I say probably. He's right. But the point is, and that's where
I could have got that car for $4,000.
I don't believe that. I do not believe that. I don't believe that at all. I don't know. I think that's ridiculous. We're talking about a 1968 Chrysler 300 that I realize doesn't have a huge classic value, but an original 40,000 miles. Excuse me. Since I have had it in the engine shop, the transmission shop, the suspension, the electrical, they're all telling me that like solid, like I picked a good one. The electric is not all brittle. This thing is worth actually restoring. Is it going to be worth like a huge sum of money as a classical car? No, I don't care though. I see people driving around Ferraris and I'm like, no, that's not the kind of car guy I am. Now, mind you, when I eventually become a billionaire, you will see me probably driving a Ferrari. I'll take a Ferrari over a Lamborghini, but that's not the kind of car guy I am. Like, this 1968 has got an original 440 in it. It is a freaking boat. You could put a whole bathroom in the back seat and 5 dead bodies in the trunk. I mean, this is one of those old classic cars that just caught my attention. And I just couldn't say no, because if the dude would have put a price tag of 12 or 15 or OBO, well, I wasn't looking to actually spend money. I would have kept scrolling. But it was $6,500.
Do you remember the other key piece of information?
No, God. Well, you're not going to let me forget. What is it?
He was Bradshaw.
That's okay. Of course, you're going to remember that piece of information.
I could have got it.
The point is I do want to say, since these mechanics have been going through this, they have attaboyed me as far as it is a solid car. The electrical is in good shape. Interior is, for a 68, is in really good shape. I mean, you don't find too many 440s with an original 40,000 miles on it. That when this car gets done, it is going to it's going to impress a lot of Chrysler lovers, and I cannot wait to actually bring it to Kokomo for everybody to see that I have restored and brought the original Chrysler 300.
We can even do a
life.
podcast from the 300.
We might, yeah. You know what? We probably could. I mean,
plenty of room.
Yo, absolutely. Okay, that is 3, and there is still one more question that I have to field before I can get out of this podcast. I mean, I'm relatively unscathed. I mean, I really thought that I could
Let's not forget question
end up being brutalized pretty bad with these questions, but they've been actually not bad. So here, the bougie blonde, Dawn, has a question. What's the question?
Okay, so tell me what you're proudest of.
You know what? That's not fair, because I remember just creating a video of this where I'm looking like an asshole right now. I'm proudest of myself. I mean,
but are you really looking like an asshole though? Because a while ago you wanted to bet on yourself anyway.
Well, no, that's the whole point.
Good.
Is that, look, I truly believe, not in that, like, nobody's going to put on a fucking cape and just like fly into the sky, but I really do believe in superpowers. Like, people underestimate themselves. They underestimate their mental and physical ability. And it's the people that realize that it's not even like you should not reach your potential, because then that's you telling yourself that you're limiting what your actual potential is. You should be chasing your potential, because you should be realizing that your potential is limitless. I mean, obviously, again, you're not going to tell yourself in your brain, I'm going to start levitating and I'm going to be the next Superman. But I mean, in a realistic sense, except for Bradshaw, I understand. That's the point is that in so many ways, people do not realize that their potential is limitless. So when I say that I'm most proud of myself, it's because I was a high school dropout and all I ever wanted to do was work, because I had no problem working with my hands to make money. I know you hear those old stories where Grandpa walked 5 miles through the snow, and well, you know what? I mean, my mom moved me and my sister to Bloomington, and no shit, we literally had to walk a mile to get to school.
Was it uphill both ways?
No, it wasn't uphill both ways. There was plenty of uphill and downhill, and when it snowed, I mean, as long as you brought a sled with you, you could actually, but you still had to trek the shit all the way up. And don't get me wrong, I mean, there were some good memories that would come out of that. But the bigger point is, when I look back, I'm like, I made it through. I saw the struggles and I didn't let them stop me. And when I got into my 20s, I realized, I want to say it was about 25. And by 25, mind you, I'm already working at Chrysler. I'm working 60 to 70 hours a week. I got a wife and 3 kids. And that light went off that I was like, fuck, I do not know half as much as I think I know. And there is a world of information out there. And I started becoming interested in the stock market. And it was like, well, where are you going to get information from the stock market? For a common person, there was 2 ways you were going to get information from the stock market: CNBC, and read books from the personalities that you saw on CNBC, because they wouldn't have been allowed to come on the platform if they didn't know some shit. So I watched a bunch of CNBC, and I probably read 20 books as I was actually trying to understand the animal that is the stock market. And then when I got into the union, there was a library of union books. And obviously, I mean, there was multiple contracts. There was a whole bunch of reading there. But when I decided I wanted to get into entrepreneurship, I started okay, I mean, you got to read on marketing. You got to read on accounting. You got to read on business structure. You got dealing with your vendors and your suppliers, and mindset. Think and Grow Rich is one of the best all-time books ever actually written. And I look back and I'm like, I read that book in my 20s, and I didn't think so much about that, but it was like programming in your brain, how to win friends and influence people. Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Those were some of the early books that I read, and it was about tapping into the potential that is inside of your own brain and the constant search of knowledge and growth under the right mindset. And to me, the right mindset is to be grateful about everything. And I see so many people that are walking through life that they just don't get it. And it's like, it doesn't matter how many times you smack them upside the head. It doesn't matter how many times they beat their head against the wall. Like, they still just don't get it, that light does not go off. And I'm proud of myself that I realized that I could learn something new every day, that I realized that where somebody will be at a level and they'll look down at somebody, and I say look down because they'll be like, oh, you're beneath me. And I'm like, yeah, fuck that. That person can teach you something too. I have learned things from so many different people, from so many different demographics, geographical areas, from race, creed, color. I mean, there is something to be learned from everyone and everything every single day. And if you understand that life and the quality of life, your brain is like a muscle. Feed it every day. It'll be a happy muscle and it will grow. If you are chasing your potential, then you are gratefully learning lessons that will serve you well throughout the course of your life in general. So, I mean, I've got a lot of things that I'm proud of. I got a lot of people that I'm proud of, But the reality is, you come back to that question of what's the best advice I ever received? Bet on yourself, invest in yourself. Well, I took that advice. And that advice was given to me in my late 20s. And here I am getting ready to turn 47. I never stopped learning. I never stopped reading. I never stopped growing. And all of that growth has really taken me into that grateful mindset that allows you to look back and be grateful for all the hard times, grateful for the grit that you gained from those lessons and from enduring all of that, and grateful that I'm not sitting here with a swelled out chest going, okay, I've learned it all. No, at 47, I'm sitting here going, I still wake up every day and I drink 3 cups of coffee and I read an average of 20 to 30 pages as I'm drinking my coffee and waking up, to the point that I used to hate that when I went to bed, I already started to dread waking up. When I wake up in the mornings now, I look forward to it. I literally look forward to going through my morning routine of brewing my coffee and sitting down and reading, because it literally feeds my brain. It starts the day off in a positive way, and I'm learning something from the moment that I wake up every single day. And man, that's something to be proud of, because I know a bunch of people that they have shitty habits and shitty routines, and I know that none of that is going to serve you well as an individual or whatever group you might be contributing to. And I'm sitting here as, I don't want to be a hypocrite. I push my own people to learn and grow and get better, and I don't want to be pushing other people to be getting better if I'm not pushing myself to be getting better. So yeah, I learn and grow every day. Grateful for all of some of the really shitty, painful lessons, but you know what? I learned them and it gave me wisdom. And yeah, whether you look at me like an asshole or not, I am. I'm proud of myself most, because I know that I've grown a lot, and I know that I have so much more to grow, and I know that I'm going to, because I enjoy learning. I enjoy the learning process, and I know it's something that's never going to go away. It is a great habit that I've installed in my life, and I'm keeping it forever. All right, and I would say I will call that a successful Q and JP, and we will see what else actually comes up on our next podcast. But everybody, you have a good night.